The Boys has an incredibly dynamic cast of characters, each of them being extremely well written and fleshed out. I know there are a lot of people who watch the show just for Homelander, to see what is essentially the complex inner workings of an insecure nuclear bomb with a god complex. And while Homelander is a truly fantastic character and the star of the show, I find myself more drawn to the journey of Starlight. Overshadowed by the man with the star-spangled cape, Starlight has gone through tremendous growth throughout the Boys' 3-season run. When taking a closer look at Starlight, in my opinion, she reveals herself to be the best character in the show.
Oh my god, wow, okay, okay, well, cheers to that.
In this video, I will look at what makes Starlight such a compelling character and how she has evolved over the course of the series.
I mean, why would you get into this business if not to save the world? That's all I have ever wanted.
Born Annie January, but better known to the world as Starlight, when we first meet her at the start of the show, she is the defender of Des Moines, where she uses her superpower abilities to help the people of her city. With her super strength, enhanced durability, and trademark electricity conversion powers,
Electricity goes in, glass comes out.
Starlight is more than capable of dealing with whatever is thrown her way. She is hopeful and an optimist, using her powers in the hope of creating a better future. She has a wide-eyed innocence about her, as she believes the best in people and seeks the best in herself. When a slot becomes open in the premier superhero team, the Seven, Starlight applies and is interviewed. She tells them that it is her dream to save the world, something that she truly believes in. She laments how being hopeful is now seen as being naive, and how she believes change for the better is possible. Vought loved her video and chose her as the newest member of the Seven, and ironically, Starlight is naive to the reality of why she was chosen. She thinks she was picked because they share her hopes and beliefs, that a young, hopeful hero is just the kind of person that should be in such a prestigious position in the Seven. The reality is that Vought didn't pick her to help her achieve her dreams and save the world. They chose her because she fits their business model. Starlight genuinely believes what she says, which makes it very easy for Vought to market her and use her to appeal to certain demographics that they want more interest from.
You're already up 2.5 points with Midwesterners and conservative Christians in 18 to 49. That speech, by the way, your audition, it was modest, it was humble, really fucking smart choice.
Oh, I meant it.
Starlight doesn't know it yet, but she just stepped into the lion's den. However, it does not take long before she realizes that her dream job is not what she had in mind. Her encounter with the Deep is an incredibly defining moment, as it makes it clear to Starlight what kind of people she will have to deal with in the Seven, and how they use their images as heroes to hide the heinous acts that they commit behind closed doors. Using Starlight's inexperience to his advantage, the Deep manipulates and threatens her, holding her position in the Seven over her head. He makes it seem like Vought will side with him and makes her feel like she has no leverage and no voice. Even though Starlight could probably take the Deep in a fight, she is incredibly vulnerable in this moment, and she feels like she doesn't have any power. Being taken advantage of and feeling like she has no alternative, she submits. Like many victims of SA, Starlight feels ashamed of herself after the encounter. She feels weak and is unsure of how to move forward. She tries to keep smiling, something that was instilled in her from a very early age, despite the pain and hurt that she feels on the inside. With her self-image and worldview shattering before her eyes, she wants to talk with her mom. She tries to open up about what happened to her, but her mom isn't listening. I think this is a good time to talk a bit about Annie's relationship with her mom, as I think this conversation is very emblematic of it. Growing up, Annie's mom put a tremendous amount of pressure on her to be super. She had every moment of her life planned, from Capes for Christ to the countless super beauty pageants that she was entered in. These are things that were forced on Annie from a young age, as they were things her mother wanted. Her smile through the pain mantra was taught to her from these experiences, and it is also why her mother is so resistant to listen to Annie when she wants to talk about her pain, when she doesn't want to smile anymore.
I've waited 23 years for this.
This isn't about you.
Isn't it?
Annie has been seeking her mother's approval her entire life, and in turn, her mother has treated her as a trophy of sorts, something to brag about and live vicariously through. With her mom not willing to listen to what is going on in her life, Annie finds an open ear in a stranger. She opens up to Huey, getting an outside perspective as she sorts out her feelings and tries to move forward. In this initial conversation, Huey's willingness to listen builds the basis for the relationship in the future. The fact that Starlight chooses to persevere after what the Deep did to her speaks volumes about her character. In the moment, she felt weak, but the fact that she suffered through that abuse and finds the resolve to continue anyway and still try to bring about the change and betterment that she has always sought speaks to the true strength that she has inside her. She is not about to give him the satisfaction of her quitting, because if she quits, he wins, and it stops her from being able to help as many people as she can. Her decision is not an easy one though, as she is forced to interact with her abuser on a daily basis, under the guise that everything is fine. During this time, Starlight learns a bit more about what it means to be a member of the Seven. Where previously she had done her own investigation on criminals, now all of the information is being controlled by Vought. She wants to understand who she is apprehending and for what crimes, but Vought just wants her to do what they tell her to, and smile for the camera.
Smile at the camera, Starlight.
The contrast between the way they work is evidenced when Starlight saves a girl from being raped, and instead of being praised for it, she is accosted for it. Another important moment for Starlight's character progression is when Vought forces a new suit onto her. I think Starlight's two suits are very representative of the way she sees herself versus the way Vought sees her. Her original costume is a reflection of herself. It has a girlish innocence about it, while still projecting strength and beauty. The new costume is Vaught's way of expanding her demographic, because as the old adage goes, sex sells. The costume sexualizes her and is extremely exploitative, trying to gain some extra approval points in exchange for showing some more skin. Vought claims that it is feminist and empowering, but the fact that it is not something that she wants to wear proves it to be the exact opposite, as it reveals how little power she truly has as she is unable to refuse. Once again, her position in the Seven is held over her head, forcing her to relent and submit to Vaught's demands. Starlight is visibly disturbed by her new suit, and the impact that her sexualized costume will have on the new generation of impressionable young girls. I think Starlight strives to be a role model for young girls, and I think she is concerned about how this costume will influence them. Vought continues to use her as a walking billboard, as they have her as a representative at the Believe Expo. She hosts a panel for teens, once again showing her desire to be a good role model, and once again, Vought and outside forces are coercing her into doing something that she doesn't believe in. When asked about premarital sex, they want her to lie in order to indoctrinate these vulnerable teens to their way of thinking. She is finding that she doesn't agree with the way Believe are espousing their views onto others, and this makes her feel even more alone. It doesn't help that once again, her mom is not listening to her concerns and is making everything about what she wants. I think Starlight's experience with Believe is very eye-opening for her, especially because her faith is something that has been important for her throughout her life. It is also something that is innately tied to her relationship with her mother, and is a mirror of it in some ways. At this moment, Starlight still believes, but she is slowly becoming disillusioned, similarly to the cracks starting to form with her relationship with her mom. Adding to her isolation is when Huey asks her to get him VIP passes to Ezekiel's meet and greet. Up until that point, Huey felt like the only thing real in her life, as he met her first as Annie, and not as the image Vought wants her to project. She had felt like Huey liked her for her, and when he asks for those VIP passes, it feels like he is just using her, similarly to how Vought and her mom are using her. All of these conflicting emotions reach a boiling point when it is time for Starlight to perform, something that she pleads not to go through with, only for her mother to guilt trip her and once again ignore what Annie wants in favor of what she wants. In a culmination of everything that she has been put through since joining the Seven, Starlight refuses to grin and bear it in silence anymore, and publicly talks about what the Deep did to her.
What's immoral is the guy who shoved his dick in my face. I'm done pretending. And I'm done taking any more shit.
This moment is actually empowering for Starlight, as it is her taking back her voice and outing the injustices that have been done to her. With the fallout from her speech, she continues to take charge as she refuses to be taken advantage of any longer. After Stillwell tries to put her back in her place and holds her position in the Seven over her head, Starlight stands her ground, telling her that she is done keeping quiet. She notes that the company's stock would fall if they fired her right after she came forward about being an SA victim. This shows that Starlight is learning how these people operate, and she is ready to fight back.
She's able to make the world of Vought a better place because it happens to her and because of the way she responds to it publicly, and she makes the Deep respond to it and apologize publicly, and he's punished.
Unfortunately, this is short-lived as her world comes crumbling around her for a second time, as it is revealed that Huey has been working to take down Vought and has been using her to gain intel. She feels incredibly betrayed and is not sure what to think. It feels like her entire relationship with Huey was a lie, and that he really was just using her for his own gains. She wants answers and needs to speak with Huey about everything that happened. Her meeting with Huey reveals that he was not the only one lying to her though, as he tells her about Compound V. She confronts her mom about this, and it is revealed how her parents injected her as a baby, lying to her whole life about how she was chosen by God.
You made me think that I was chosen by God.
You were. God brought Vought into our lives. He made this possible.
It's all true from a certain point of view.
From the very first, she was being used and controlled for other people's gain. The only thing that changed was it went from her mother to Vought. It is also revealed that the reason her father left was because he no longer agreed with what they had done to their daughter. This does massive damage to her relationship with her mom and to her faith. She is losing sense of self because she is finding it hard to decipher the things she actually believes versus the things she was forced to believe through coercion and lies.
This was our dream.
This was your dream. I never got a chance to choose my own dreams. No wonder I don't know who the fuck I'm supposed to be.
This is the most alone she has ever felt, questioning everything in her life. Her relationship with Queen Maeve is crucial to her development, and I think taking some time to examine it is needed to understand where Starlight ends up at the end of the first season. Growing up, Starlight idolized Maeve and wanted to be the same kind of hero that she was.
I wanted to live my life exactly like yours.
However, after her experiences as a member of the Seven, and knowing Maeve as a cold, distant character, she fears that the person she idolized never truly existed, and it was just the marketing team that created Maeve's image. After Starlight finds out about how Huey and her mom were lying to her, she is disillusioned and has given up hope. It is at this crucial point that Maeve talks with Starlight and tells her that she actually did do those things and they weren't lies. Somewhere along the way, the system beat her down until she became cold and uncaring. She doesn't want the same thing to happen to Starlight. If Starlight gives up, the lonely, unhappy life that Maeve leads will become her future. Maeve urges Starlight to keep being who she is and not to change because of everyone else. This is exactly what Starlight needed to hear, as after being used by Vought, Huey, and her mom, she chooses to be above it all and do something because she believes it to be the right thing to do. She goes to help Huey because she is a superhero and a person who helps others. I think Starlight has a tremendous first season. With everything that she went through, the fact that she still manages to rise above it all and does the right thing regardless of the corrupt world she inhabits shows her to be an incredibly strong and just character. She is reaffirmed in her mission of saving the world, and the fact that she continues to persevere towards this dream after all the struggles she has had to endure makes her ultimate decision to be a hero all the more satisfying.
Maybe once I would have cried over him, but now he was just another person in our way.
As season 2 begins, Starlight is still reeling from the events of the first season, the ripples of what she underwent continuing to inform her character.
She hardens a lot as a result of season 1. A really thick wall goes up with her that is inevitable when you take someone who's really earnest, naive and kind of gullible, and then they have their heart broken by every single person in their life that they love, by all the systems that they've believed in.
She has distanced herself from her mom, no longer responding to texts or calls as she continues to process everything that her mom put her through. She's questioning her faith and belief in God, no longer wearing the cross that her mother had given her. On the surface, she is still being used as a puppet for Vought, forced to wear her new suit as the higher-ups have begun marketing her even harder. From an outside perspective, it even looks like Starlight has fully sold out and become the Vaughttiest Vought. But beneath the falseness of her suit persona, Annie has found new resolve, throwing herself into her mission of saving the world. She's doing this by working with Huey in secret in an effort to expose Compound V to the public. It is while she is undertaking this mission that we see a new side to Annie, as we see just how far she is willing to go. In Annie's journey, season 2 is really the crux, as she has been hardened by the reality of her world and must decide how much of herself she is willing to give up in order to change it.
Her morals stay totally intact, but she's forced to adapt to the dark world that she's become exposed to, and her means to attain that objective totally change.
In season 2, we see Annie break bad, starting with her blackmailing of Gecko. A former friend from her Capes for Christ days, as a test subject for Vought, Gecko has access to Compound V, which Annie needs in order to expose the truth. She records Gecko working as an S&M hooker, and threatens to post it unless he steals V for her. This act is the first instance of the corrupt world seeping into Annie, making her a slightly grey character where before she was the embodiment of good. Her intentions are still pure, but she has now shown a willingness to dirty herself in order to achieve her goals. She also shows herself to be quick on her feet in a number of occasions throughout the season. Because she is effectively acting as a mole in Vought Tower, on a number of occasions she finds herself in tricky situations where she could be found out. In all of these instances, she thinks quickly in order to save her skin. The first time A-Train catches her with the V, she uses some nice sleight of hand to hide it in Stormfront's bag, as A-Train checks her boots. When he later catches her with it outright and is set on reporting her to Homelander, she breaks out her knowledge about what he did to Popclaw, using mutually assured destruction as a means of stopping him. Later in the season, when she is searching Stormfront's laptop for information and is walked in on by said Nazi, Starlight tries to play it off like she was in there to confront Stormfront about interfering with her relationship with her mom. She also exhibits quick thinking when she comes across Huey in the sewers. Knowing Homelander is right around the corner, she blasts Huey in an attempt to make it look like this is the first time she has seen him since season 1. Homelander is not buying it though, and tells Starlight to kill Huey in order to prove her loyalty, or he will kill them both. Now, Starlight lights up before Butcher and Kenji come to save the day, but we don't really know what Starlight would have done if they hadn't been interrupted. I have to imagine that if the moment continued to play out, she would have turned her attack to Homelander and tried to escape with Huey. Now, this would have likely resulted in both of their deaths, but that's what I think she would have done. What's interesting though, is that I am not 100% certain. If this moment took place in season 1 or even season 3, Starlight doesn't even consider killing Huey as an option, but here in season 2, I think it's a non-zero chance that she goes through with it so that she can continue to fight another day. Regardless, she doesn't end up having to make that decision. However, Homelander is not ready to leave well enough alone. The following day in Vought Tower, he threatens Starlight's life again, suspecting that the reason she didn't kill Huey was because she was working with him. Starlight tells him that she didn't kill Huey because she's not a murderer, and that Huey broke her heart. Homelander believes her because it is the truth. Huey did break her heart. Moments like these, where Starlight is one wrong word away from death, have a profound impact on her, as she reveals that she has PTSD about her time in the tower, knowing that any minute Homelander could kill her, something he has expressed a desire to do multiple times.
Just wondering if Homelander is waiting around every corner to kill me. It's like living with a loaded gun in my face.
Another momentous event for Starlight this season is when Huey is injured at the Sage Grove Center. With no vehicle, Butcher and her run to the side of the road where they stop a passerby and demand to use his car. The driver offers a fair compromise of driving them to the hospital, but Butcher is insistent on needing to commandeer the vehicle. The driver doesn't believe Butcher's non-existent FBI credentials, which results in Butcher pulling his gun and the driver pulling his own gun in response. Starlight tries to de-escalate the situation, but Butcher isn't really helping things. As things start ramping up, Starlight blasts the driver in an attempt to end the standoff. She used too much power and the driver ends up dying. Now driving in the dead man's car, Starlight expresses how at one point in her life an interaction like that would have devastated her, but now she was simply irritated that the guy pulled a gun. The man was in their way of saving Huey, and Starlight was okay with doing what she needed to do in order to get what she wanted. This is another act of bringing Starlight down a darker path, as she shows what she is willing to do to achieve her goals. Interesting enough, I think it is Butcher's reaction of silent approval that turns Annie off of her decision. Butcher has shown himself to be willing to do anything in order to bring down Vought, with almost no line that he isn't willing to cross. The idea that Annie did what Butcher would do and is the same kind of person as him makes her self-reflect and really analyze how far she would be willing to go.
It really wakes her up to realize I think she's kind of been in denial about how much this world and being in Vought has changed her.
She doesn't want to be like Butcher, and so instead of taking the less complicated, more heartless path, she once again tries to do things the right way, alongside Huey. Even though she thinks Butcher is right and doing things the right way won't work, she decides to help Huey because he thinks it's the right thing to do, even if it is futile. Annie and Huey's relationship has definitely been tumultuous, but I think it is moments like these that make it satisfying as they motivate each other to be better people. One of the through lines this season has been the motif of girls get it done. It was used to great effect as it allowed us to explore a lot of misogyny in the world. During the press junkets, Starlight is being subjected to sexist questions about her gender and love life, questions that would not be asked to her if she were a man.
Girls get it done.
Let's dish boys. Starlight, single or spoken for?
Single. Single. Definitely single.
Were you able to wear undergarments?
This culminates in one of the best moments of the entire series, as Starlight alongside Queen Maeve and Kimiko stomp the shit out of Stormfront. The season ends on an optimistic note for Starlight, as she is back in the Seven, no longer in constant fear for her life, and allowed to once again wear her original suit. She reconnects with her mom and decides to wear the cross she gave her, a representation of forgiveness and a willingness to move forward. She is back together with Huey, both with a renewed sense of purpose and a desire to help make the world a better place. Season 2 was an incredibly interesting season for Starlight, as she took a slightly darker turn. However, she came out the other end of it even more steadfast in her beliefs and willing to move forward with those who wronged her, like Huey and her mom. She draws her inspiration to be better from those around her, and heading into season 3, she's even more set on saving the world.
I don't know what they're gonna do to me for telling the truth, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I should have done it sooner. I'm sorry. And one more thing. I'm not Starlight anymore. My name is Annie January.
At the start of Season 3, Starlight is at her absolute peak. She has continued to work in the Seven, but now has more freedom and power thanks to the Flight 37 video hanging over Homelander's head. Her popularity is at an all-time high, as her approval rating is at an unheard of 96%. She and Huey have gone public with her relationship and are also in a good place. Where in the past, Vought or Homelander would exert their influence over her and force her to do things that she didn't want to do, now she has the power and position to resist. She can start shaping the world to how she wants it to be, rather than be forced to live in the world as it is. Stan Edgar has taken notice of her rise and wants to name her as co-captain of the Seven. She is uncertain at first, and even refuses on instinct, not wanting to upset Homelander. But upsetting Homelander is exactly what Stan Edgar wants to do, and so he manages to convince her of the potential benefits of being co-captain. Being co-captain would offer her more power, the ability to choose the replacements for the 2 vacant spots in the Seven, to create change from within the system. She also sees it as a big honor, as there has never been a female captain of a major superhero team before. She sees this as an opportunity to be a positive influence for young girls, something that she has been concerned with since the first season.
First female co-captain of any super team ever. I mean, think about what that would mean to millions of girls.
The more she thinks about it, the more she sees the potential benefits and loses sight of the potential ramifications. She ultimately takes the role, pushing Homelander just a little bit closer to the edge. It initially starts out fairly well, as she is choosing the next member of the Seven on the reality show American Hero. While Vought is looking at superficial marketing-based reasons on who should be picked, Starlight is focused on what really matters when it comes to being a hero. She wants to pick Silver Kincaid because she is seemingly the best at the actual job. Unfortunately, Starlight is unable to form her version of the Seven, as Homelander starts to push. She ends up overplaying her hand, threatening to release the Flight 37 video, only for Homelander to explain how that would result in him killing millions of people. Realizing that she has no leverage at all, she is forced to submit to a new series of indignities. Instead of letting Silver Kincaid join the Seven, Homelander brings back the Deep, forcing Starlight to work alongside her sexual abuser. This is done as a means of tormenting her for Homelander's own sick pleasure. Homelander also wants to capitalize on Starlight's popularity, forcing her into a sham relationship with him. This faux romance is in its own a form of abuse and shows how powerless Starlight is in this situation. However, Starlight is not subjecting herself to this with no hope for the future. Instead, she is doing her best to buy time for the boys to find a weapon that can kill Homelander. She is willing to do her part in the hopes that they can put an end to Homelander once and for all. She starts making plans to fight Homelander, recruiting a number of heroes to her side. One of these heroes is her ex-boyfriend and newest member of the Seven, Supersonic. Starlight had initially warned Supersonic not to join the Seven, as it would mean putting his life in danger. However, Supersonic believes in doing the right thing, and doesn't want to leave Starlight to fend for herself, and so he joins anyway. Now that Supersonic has joined the Seven, Starlight sees him as a potential ally and asks him to help fight Homelander if it comes to that. He agrees and goes on a little recruiting mission of his own. Unfortunately, he tries to recruit A-Train, which results in him being snitched on and subsequently murdered. Homelander uses Supersonic's death as a warning to Starlight, telling her to give up. Starlight is devastated by Supersonic's death, feeling guilty about involving him in her schemes. Things seemingly keep getting worse as Maeve disappears soon after, and Starlight is left alone in a room full of vipers. When she learns of Soldier Boy, she teams up with Mother's Milk and goes to Herogasm to stop the disaster they fear is coming. They know that it is only a matter of time before shit hits the fan, and so they are doing their very best to try and evacuate the place. Unfortunately, the horny degenerates are not very interested in listening, and when Soldier Boy does ultimately destroy the place, a lot of people are killed. Starlight is not present for the actual explosion at Herogasm because Huey teleported her away in his desire to save her. Their relationship this season has been rocky, as Huey has let his insecurities get the best of him. In the first season, while on a date with Huey, Annie talked about how she would pretend to not be as good as she really is because it intimidated the men in her life. She felt she had to limit herself because of how others would react, adding to her own insecurities. At the time, Huey assured her that he did not feel this way and that she should be proud to be who she is. This was a foundational building block in their relationship.
This is one of the reasons why she fell in love with him, that he wasn't threatened by her, that she felt empowered by him, and that she could be herself around him.
However, after failing to open one too many jars, Huey backtracks on his previous statements, as it becomes clear that it does in fact bother him. He has also given up on doing things the right way, something that he had inspired Starlight to do. Now the roles are reversed as Starlight perseveres through the corruption of their reality and works to create change the right way. She rushes back into Herogasm and does her best to save and help as many people as she can. She's truly horrified at the destruction that she has witnessed and has ultimately had enough. She weaponizes her influence and broadcasted live from the scene, revealing to the world that Homelander is a monster and quits the Seven. I think her decision to quit makes sense, because at this time, as a member of the Seven, her ability to fight against Homelander is nerfed. With no allies left in the tower, she has no one to stand alongside her and fight against the malevolent forces controlling them. By quitting, she takes with her her millions of followers and effectively cuts off her strings, freeing herself to act on her own accord. She uses her influence incredibly well, tricking Homelander into making himself look bad while she is live and rallying the masses to find out what happened to Maeve. It is this influence that gets a warrant for Vought Tower to be searched and lets Maeve escape, saving her like how Maeve saved Starlight in Season 1. During the fight at Vought Tower, she is once again focused on evacuating the building and saving as many people as she can.
There are a couple thousand people in that building. I mean, if he pulls a Herogasm, he's gonna take the whole fucking place down.
She ends the season bidding farewell to Maeve and officially joining the boys. Annie discarding her Starlight costume and persona is representative of her fully embracing who she is and what truly matters. It is when she is dressed as herself rather than the persona of Starlight that truly enables her to be free from all outside forces and to work towards her goal of saving the world.
The implication is she's found her identity, and that is through radical honesty. She wants to expose Vought, she wants to expose Homelander, and she's going to do it outside of the corporation so she can shed this facade and be her true self.
Over the course of the series, Annie has gone through some incredible growth. She starts out naive to the horrors of the world before experiencing them firsthand. She does her best to persevere, and after taking a brief detour down a dodgy path, she finds her way back onto the path of righteousness. Her renewed vigor in saving the world means even more after coming out the other end of all of the terrible things she has had to endure. Annie is a survivor. A character that did not let herself be conquered by the abuse she suffered, but showed her strength by overcoming it. She brings a lot to the show, and is one of the voices of morality in a world that is almost devoid of such things. I am enthralled by the journey she has undergone, and for all these reasons, Annie January, also known as Starlight, is in my opinion, the best character on The Boys. If you somehow made it to the end of this video, I want to thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments who you think is the best character in The Boys. If you enjoyed the video, it would mean a lot if you liked and subscribed. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in the next video.